Hey, it's Denise, and it is Monday, March 23rd. Up here in the Adirondacks, we're having another winter wonderland day out there. Plow just went by a few minutes ago. Hoping the power stays on, because that's always an issue here. Excuse me. The power lines have to go through so many trees to get through the park and stuff, and yeah, so when there's a heavy snowfall, a lot of times we end up with branches down, which brings down power lines and blah, blah, blah. And as it is going into the teens at night, that's a bad thing. You need to be able to get your space heaters on, and once again, that is why I own a generator. But I digress. So we are starting our second week, really, of being in the house. And I been trying to do like one, actual cooking real meal a day. Just made. And yes, those of you who have had weight loss surgery know this is a hopeful, like maybe I can really eat this amount portion. And especially because it's things I don't really eat. It's some pasta with meat sauce. And the whole time I was losing weight, obviously, I didn't eat pasta at all, and even now it's really not part of my regular, just trying to maintain diet. But extraordinary circumstances and all, I'm trying to, use the food we have in and not waste food. And it's not like I'm eating a big portion, but I'm eating the same thing that Patrick's eating. And this is what he wanted tonight. So I can eat my little bites of this while I tell you what else we're doing. He's just, he's talking to his brother and his friends online, and to chew like 500 times now, and the joys of weight loss surgery. I took some cake and, like sliced pound cake kind of cake, and dehydrated it and made biscotti. And then I decided, like, I'm here anyway, and looked at the big package of cinnamon buns we'd gotten, like cinnamon rolls with the white icing on top. And they were starting to get a little past their prime. Not moldy or anything, but a little dry. I was like, I wonder if you could dehydrate those. And the answer is yes you can. They kind of have the texture of a crouton, but they taste like cinnamon rolls. So again, I saw that it was just kind of why let it go bad? Neither of us is interested in eating stale cinnamon rolls. But the biscotti, I just yesterday finished up the last of the biscotti that I had made. And by made, I mean dehydrated store-bought cake. I had made it around Christmas. And I just finished up the last of it last night. And I just had it stored in mason jars. So as long as you dehydrate it absolutely, positively, thoroughly, it stays good for months. You just keep it in a sealed container. So this time, I got, this is like a coffee cake cinnamon swirl kind of flavor. I also got chocolate chip, and lemon. I know I love lemon because I've done it with that before. And I've done it with the banana bread ones before. They came out really good too. In fact, I haven't dehydrated a cake yet that I haven't liked. I'm still chewing that tin bite. So, what else? We were talking, Patrick and I, about the importance of taking stock of, as far as regular food, are we going to starve to death? No, we're not going to. That's not really a concern unless we're here a whole lot longer than anticipated. But I think realistically, now that our county has had its first case, I think it was the day before yesterday. Yesterday, day before, they had the first COVID-19 case in our county, and they seemed to think they had it isolated to one house. The person who got it at work in another county. There were other confirmed cases apparently at their place of work, and they luckily are not a social butterfly, I guess, because they didn't seem to think they had been in contact with anyone really except the people at work and their family, their immediate family that they live with. And apparently one other family member has now tested positive. But again, they seem to think that that was someone who had not had contact really with anyone outside of the house. So hopefully it would be awesome if it actually could be contained that easily to one household. I like to be an optimist, but I also like to be a realist. Who knows how many people it's spread to in the county. He or she, they did not, identify the person, anything about them, age, gender, nothing. And so while I had been feeling, not like I was flaunting running out to the store and spending a lot of time there regularly, I had been feeling up until there was actually a case in our county, I guess, relatively comfortable as long as I, obsessive compulsively use hand sanitizer and Lysol and stuff going to the store. And yesterday when I went, I was like, you know what? It's starting to feel a little crazy. People are still being polite and stuff, but the level of tension or anxiety was, you could feel it at the store yesterday. And up until that point, up here you weren't really seeing that. People were still acting relatively normal. I mean, we only just started having trouble buying toilet paper a few days ago. But Patrick and I were taking stock anyway of things that, sort of look at the stuff that are your favorite things, like treats. He's into chips. We both like the occasional candy. And I was like, you got to look at, it could be a month before we go to the store again. And if that's the case, for example, I had grabbed 2 12-packs of Diet Snapple because that's kind of my favorite thing to drink. And I haven't had one yet because I was like, that's only 24. That's not even one a day if I'm trying to make something last 30 days. So I was like, you know what? I had mixed up from the last big bottle I had of Diet Snapple. I had mixed up just some grape Crystal Light. And so I'm kind of drinking that today. I told Patrick, though, we need to look at it. I mean, I was listening to an expert of some sort talking. And they're basically saying, use what's in your refrigerator or on your shelves that will go bad. Use that stuff up first. Then start working on the stuff in your freezer because, if the power went out, you would lose that stuff. And try to save your canned stuff, your shelf-stable stuff for last, because just in case, it goes longer than, and let's face it, does anyone believe that this is going to be over in 2 weeks? And I don't say that to be alarmist. Like I said, it's just, we're just starting to see our curve spike upward. There's no way this is over in 2 weeks. There's no way I'm walking out there in 2 weeks. Short of some sort of medical emergency that I had no choice but to go out there. So I do think we have to be looking at how are we going to deal with a longer time period than the 2 weeks that people are, self-isolate for 2 weeks. To me, it's like, okay, once we've self-isolated for 2 weeks, we can be relatively certain that the two of us don't have it. Then I sure as hell don't want to go out there and catch it, It's like if I was down in the lower part of the state, which I was for 3 weeks, I'm still crossing my fingers because I haven't been home a full 2 weeks yet. Friday will be 2 weeks, which is where I kind of considered myself at a higher risk than I would consider myself around here. And if I manage to, get to that two week, I know it can still be a few days longer, but generally by 2 weeks you're showing some symptoms. So if after you quarantine yourself and your family for 2 weeks or whatever, and none of you are sick, to me, you would be nuts to then go out into the world. It's like, okay, we managed to get through unscathed, and we know that we're not spreading it, and we know that we don't have it. Are you suddenly going to go out and then mingle with people who have it? Who might look perfectly healthy but have it? So to me, the 2-week quarantine, yes, it's absolutely important because we want to identify who has it. And if you do have it, you want to, obviously limit who you have contact with. But I think some people aren't thinking the long game there. Once you've identified yourself as someone who doesn't have it, after 2 or 3 weeks, however long you feel comfortable before you say, I think it's safe to say we don't have it. If you're fortunate enough, and I'm certainly hoping we are, to get to that point, to me it's like then every trip out of the house you're risking that. So I do think people have to look at how can they make the most of what they have in the house. And, really, I'm never a big meal planner. I am not organized with that. I couldn't tell you half of what is or isn't in my cabinets or freezer. I'm bad like that. I'm starting to get a lot more attentive to exactly what is and isn't in my freezer and, in cabinets. And luckily, I kind of stocked up on spices recently. So as far as seasonings and stuff go, I'm good. And basics like salt and pepper. I probably use one of those little cans of pepper. Probably lasts me about 3 years. We have those kind of, plus I have all the kind of sweeter type seasonings, ones like you think of when you think of baking. And then I have your, sort of garlic and onion powder and Italian seasoning mix and that kind of thing. So, yeah, pretty well stocked as far as seasonings. And for me, part of the challenge is going to be things like, I know I have 2 whole turkeys in my chest freezer. Now, it's just Patrick and I. If I cook a whole turkey, there's no way we're going to eat it. I mean, plus, I'm getting ready to take bite 2 or 3 of dinner, which is, of course, already cold. I've gotten used to that. Which means after you get a meal or 2 out of the turkey, obviously you don't want to waste what's left, but you then have to try to turn it into something interesting and preserve it. It's like make homemade turkey soup. Fortunately, I have a pressure canner, and as the last few months, actually, I have stocked up a bit on canning jars, so I can make shelf-stable turkey soup after I cook a whole turkey, and Patrick and I eat our whopping, 1/10 of it. I can make turkey soup, or I can make some sort of turkey something and freeze it, eat some leftovers the next day or 2, but for the 2 of us to eat a whole turkey, we're going to run out of any desire to eat turkey before we run out of turkey. So that I'm kind of thinking of, okay, it's, So far I've been using things that were in smaller packages. But, like, I used a 1-pound package of hamburger to make the meat sauce tonight. But when it comes time to, like, all right, let's use, some of this bigger stuff, those are things I planned on cooking, like at a gathering. Not something I would cook for just me and one other person. So, but like I said, if you stay home and you're healthy, now to me you have even more incentive to stay home while this thing runs its course, and I just don't want to be in the way of its course while it's running it. We can all hope that we were not exposed before we started to self-quarantine. And, but then you have to make that decision of when do you feel like it's worth the risk, I guess, of going out if you are fortunate enough not to have caught it. And that's when you really do have to start taking stock of what you have on hand and how long you can make it stretch, and get creative with some meal planning. So, on that happy note, other things we've been doing, straightening up a little bit. Yesterday I planted strawberry plants in the arrow garden, so it'll be maybe, I guess, a week or so. Hopefully I'll start to see if they... I've never done strawberry plants in an arrow garden, so I'm hoping to see some signs of life. How their plants are like dormant, bare root looking things when you get them. And I'm thinking about what else, because I'm thinking I might as well use my other arrow garden. The one in the kitchen has some sort of flowers, and then it has a cherry tomato plant. So I have space on the bench next to the big one in the hall. I have another one, a smaller one, and just trying to think what to put in there. I mean, so I can grow watermelons in my hallway. That would I think they probably need a lot more roots than would fit in an arrow garden. I'm tired, can you tell? My head is starting to schlump. Anyway, so yeah, keeping busy with kitchen experiments, actual cooking, and also I think my next butcher box is due to arrive in the next couple days. So I did want to make sure I made some room in my freezer. That's kind of what motivated me. I do have some chicken wings parboiling that I'm going to be cooking in the oven. I watched one of, on Food Wishes, I watched one of Chef John's recipes. Of course, I'll eliminate practically all of the seasonings that he used because it was a kind of spicy recipe. But the idea of parboiling the chicken and then essentially just using a hot oven and, whatever you're seasoning it with to just kind of crispy it up as opposed to frying it, but you'll still know it's cooked all the way through because you boiled it, essentially really cooked it by boiling it. And then you are getting it browned up and crispy and nice quickly in a very hot oven just for a short time. So I'm going to try that technique with my wings, which are on the stove. And that's what I'm doing for the rest of the night. I know, it's very exciting stuff going on here. And stay well, everybody, and keep your sanity. And just keep yourself safe, Don't go into the store if it looks too crowded. Try to go back at another time. If you don't have to be out, don't be out. And be well.